Sometimes the kindest hearts have the least to give. One ordinary man made a choice that changed two lives forever. He didn't know her name. He didn't ask for anything in return. All he saw was someone in pain, and he stepped forward. What happened after will restore your faith in humanity. In a small, dusty town on the edge of the city lived a man named Rafik. He was in his late 40s, with tired eyes and calloused hands that told the story of struggle without using a single word. Every morning before the sun painted the sky with light, he would leave his small rented room to work at a roadside tea stall. The pay wasn't much, just enough to keep him fed and to cover the rent of the little place he called home. Rafik's clothes were old but always clean. He stitched his shirts himself when they tore and polished his wore, out shoes every week, hoping they would last a little longer. He didn't own a phone or watch movies or dream of vacations. His dream was simple, to survive with dignity. What most people never knew was that Rafik once had a family. His wife had passed away years ago due to an illness they couldn't afford to treat. Their only son, barely a teenager at the time, had left to work in another city and never returned. No calls, no letters, no answers. Some nights, Rafik would sit alone on the wooden bench outside his room and stare at the sky, wondering if his son was safe, or if he even remembered him. Despite the loneliness, Rafik treated everyone with kindness. When schoolchildren came to buy tea for their teachers, he would smile and give them extra sugar. When an old rickshaw driver had no money one evening, Rafik handed him a cup and said, "Pay me later." He believed that kindness was not something you showed when you had plenty. It was something you gave even when you had little. One cold evening, after finishing his work at the tea stall, he walked to the nearby pharmacy to buy medicine for his aching joints. The chill in the air made his bones heavy and stiff, but he didn't complain. The girl at the counter already knew him. She would smile and say, "Uncle, pain again." He would chuckle and reply, "It keeps me company." That night seemed like any other. The streets were crowded with honking rickshaws and flickering lights. People walked past him without noticing. Some busy, some tired, some just unaware. Rafik moved slowly, his steps measured and gentle, carrying nothing but a cloth bag and the quiet strength of a man who had seen too much yet complained too little. But he didn't know. Something was about to happen that would change his life in ways he never expected. As Rafik entered the pharmacy, he noticed a young woman at the counter, her hands trembling. She looked to be in her early 20s, wearing a faded scarf and carrying a small child in her arms. The child's breathing was shallow, and his little face was flushed with fever. The woman's eyes were red as if she had been crying for a long time. I only have this much," she whispered, placing a few crumpled notes on the counter. The pharmacist looked at the money and shook his head. "This won't be enough. The antibiotics and inhaler together cost much more." The woman's face fell. She held the child closer, panic filling her voice. "Please, he hasn't slept in 2 nights. His breathing is worse. I will pay you later, I promise. I'm sorry." The pharmacist replied, his tone not unkind but firm. "We don't give medicines on credit anymore. Too many people never return." The woman looked around helplessly, as if hoping someone might step in. But the customers waiting behind her were restless. One man muttered, "Some people always expect pity." Another sighed loudly and checked his watch. Rafik stood quietly near the entrance, watching. He remembered the night his wife had struggled to breathe, the way he had begged for help but arrived too late. His heart tightened. The woman tried again. "I can leave my ID card here, or my earrings," she said, removing small metal studs from her ears. The pharmacist hesitated but still refused. "I can't accept that. I need full payment." The child let out a weak cough and whimpered. The mother wiped his forehead with the edge of her scarf, her eyes filling with tears she tried hard to hide. She gathered the money back, whispering apologies to her son, as if it were her fault. People behind her grew impatient. Someone said, "If she can't pay, let her move aside." Another annoyed voice added, "There are others waiting." The woman stepped away from the counter, clutching her child, looking lost and ashamed. She lowered her head, as though the world was too heavy to look at. Rafik felt something inside him stir, an ache deeper than pain. He reached into his pocket and touched the folded notes he had saved for his own medicine. It wasn't much, but it was all he had. He could have walked away. Most people would. After all, He was not responsible for her. He was not rich. He was not strong. He was just a tired man trying to make it through another day. But sometimes the people with the least give the most. Rafik stepped forward. Without saying a word, Rafik walked to the counter and placed his money gently on the glass surface. The pharmacist looked at him in surprise. "Uncle, this is for your medicine, right?" the girl at the counter asked. Rafik shook his head slowly. "Give the child what he needs first." The young mother turned sharply, stunned. No, please, you don't have to." Rafik raised his hand kindly. "A child's breath is worth more than my pain. His need is greater." The pharmacist hesitated, unsure. "This isn't enough for everything. I'll come tomorrow with the rest," Rafik said, even though he wasn't sure how he would manage it. "Just don't make them wait." The woman stared at him, tears streaming silently down her cheeks as the pharmacist prepared the medicine. She tried to speak, but words failed her. She held her son tightly, whispering prayers under her breath. When the medicines were handed to her, she stepped forward and tried to return the money. "I don't even know your name," she cried softly. "How will I ever repay you?" Rafik smiled gently. "One day, someone else will need help. You can repay me then." She nodded slowly, overwhelmed, and whispered, "Thank you. May God bless you." Rafik simply bowed his head and walked toward the door. He didn't wait for gratitude. He didn't look back. His joints still ached, and he had no medicine left for himself, but his heart felt strangely light. Outside, the night air was cool. The streetlights glowed softly, and the noise of the market faded behind him. With every slow step he took, he thought of the little boy breathing easier soon, and it made his pain bearable. Days passed. Rafik returned to his work, quietly as always. He never told anyone what he had done. Then one afternoon, as he was serving tea to customers, a man in formal clothes stepped into the stall. He looked around until his eyes landed on Rafik. "Are you Rafik?" the man asked. Rafik wiped his hands on a cloth and nodded politely. "Yes, how can I help you?" The man smiled warmly. "I'm Dr. Sammer. You helped my sister at the pharmacy last week. Her child is recovering now." Rafik's eyes widened in surprise. "Oh, how is he?" "Out of danger," the doctor said. "And we wanted to thank you." Rafik shook his head. "There's no need," the doctor interrupted softly. "Please listen. My sister told me everything. People like you are rare. From today, you don't have to worry about your medicines. I've arranged for your treatment at my clinic, free of cost." Rafik stood silent, overwhelmed. He had expected nothing. He had only given from his heart. Yet, kindness had found its way back to him, like a gentle echo. The doctor placed a hand on his shoulder. "You healed someone without medicine. Let us do the same for you." For the first time in a long while, Rafik felt seen. Not as a poor man, not as someone forgotten by the world, but as a human being who mattered. Kindness doesn't ask who you are. It simply answers when there is need. Rafik gave what little he had, expecting nothing in return. But the world has a way of circling goodness back. One act of compassion can heal more than we know. And sometimes the poorest hearts carry the richest souls.